Hi, my name's Kris McInnes and I'm a psychic medium from Brisbane, Queensland. And tonight I'd like to share another true story, my experience with the Old Hag syndrome. Now, the Old Hag syndrome, if you follow the medical profession and all of that, they will say it's a sleep paralysis issue, kind of brought on from lack of sleep, stress, anxiety, things like that, and probably a lot more, but I don't know all of that part of it. And there are people out there that think it's more supernatural, which I'm that way inclined only because of experience that I had for probably about 4 to 5 years, which I count myself lucky because some people apparently never get rid of this. And unfortunately, a lot of people I have heard end up committing suicide and things like that because they're so stressed out, not knowing who to talk to and what help to get with it. And I'm not going against the medical field out there either. Like, sometimes maybe it is medical in some ways, I don't know, but all I can do is share my experience, and you can take it for what it is. You make your own decision. But anyway, this was probably about 10 to 12 years ago now. And my wife and I and my mother and my younger sister, we ended up going out to the local drive-in to watch some movies. And for whatever reason, I ended up in the in my sister's car, and she had a little hatchback, and were watching the last movie together in her car. And near the end of the movie, I have no idea what made us turn around and look at the back window. There was no noises, no bumps or anything like that, but we both just turned around at the exact same time to look at the back window because we just felt something wasn't right. And it was a little bit of a rainy night, and so it was a little bit of fog and mist around and things like that. But we both saw it was, you couldn't see through the back window clearly, but it looked like a dark figure of a person just either hovering or just hanging over the back of the car with all this matted long dreadlocks hair just kind of sliding around on the back window. And we're staring at it in like fear, quiet type of thing. And I said to my sister quietly, I said, I'm going to get out, I'm going to jump out, I'm going to see what this thing is. Because I thought, there has to be someone that's playing silly buggers, some teenagers running around the drive-in that night or something. So I didn't take my eyes off it, but I kind of felt around for the side door handle and reefed it open and jumped out, never took my eyes off it, stared at the back of the car. And there were lights around the place, so we weren't in pitch darkness, but nothing was at the back of the car. And no one scurrying off or anything like that. So then I got back to the car with my sister. I said, there's nothing out there. And then we looked at the back window again, and someone with their finger, it looked like, had kind of drawn the protection pentagram symbol on the window. And then we realised it was actually done from the inside of the car in the back. So we started having a go at each other, thinking it was each other, kind of getting a bit vocal about it because we didn't really want to think of what it could be. And my wife and my mother in the other car beside us, looking over all the commotion, trying to work out what's happening. So we let them know what happened. And so we were both kind of quite shaken up that night about what we just went through. But then, I don't exactly remember, it wasn't that night, but it was within the same week. I started having these experiences of the sleep paralysis, if you want to put it that way. I'd be paralyzed in bed, but my mind would be completely active. And I could just sense something coming down the hallway towards the bedroom, and I just had this fear. This it was putting this real horrible, nasty. To be honest, it felt demonic, but I don't really know. But coming down the hallway, and then this old lady, witchy looking horrible thing would come into the room, look like she's all angry and pissed off, and she'll be slowly coming up, and I can't move. I'll be trying to speak out to my wife. I wouldn't be able to get a freaking word out. And she'll come over and start staring into my eyes, and finally I could, I'd murmur, and my wife would realise something's going on, and she'd kind of shake me. Sometimes she'd really have to get into it, go, wake up, wake up, wake up. And this could happen once a night. It could happen 4, 5, 10 times a night, sometimes on a real bad night. And like I said, this went on for about 4 or 5 years, but I was very lucky because, like I said, a lot of other people have this the rest of their life. But this thing would be, sometimes I might go a couple of weeks or a few weeks or a month without anything happening, and then suddenly, bang, like a ton of bricks, it would come back. And it wasn't always her. There'll be dark shadows of people racing around the room, or someone standing at the foot of the bed, and the same feelings are coming through. Just sickly anger, horrible, just demonic feeling in the room. And it got to the point, I'd lay down to go to sleep, and I'd start looking around and go, okay, my chair's over there, the curtains are almost shut, but just a little bit open at the foot, at the bed head. Anything I could pick up on, I'd try to remember that. And in my dream, I'd be looking at this like dream state thing to see, okay, is everything the same as before I went to sleep? Because I know what's happening when this thing would happen. And there was one night even, like, it came in, bashed through the doorway and all of that. And when my wife finally got me out of it, I saw just a bag on the door, just slightly, just rocking a little bit. And I'm like, did it hit that thing, or what's going on? So it was really playing with my mind. I don't really know. So it got to the point that if my wife went to bed after me or anything like that, I would leave that door open. I could not shut the door because I'll be terrified if this thing comes back while I'm sleeping and she can't hear me murmuring, trying to talk, that I could be stuck with it that night. So I'd leave the door open, and there were quite a lot of nights where my wife would have to run down the hallway to come down to drag me out of this thing. And with my work, I travel Queensland and have to stay at a lot of motels, so I was always terrified this thing was going to attack me in a motel somewhere where I've got a workmate in another bed in the room, but I can't tell him what's happening. So it's a bit hard for me to try to get help from him. And to be honest, nothing like that ever happened on a work trip except for the very last night this all happened. I was this motel had 2 bedrooms. It was in Cairns, and I went to sleep that night. No dramas at all. But firstly, just to let you know that I have done a lot of courses and kind of learned how to astro travel, and which that's a way that I do a lot of my entity removal from location to location, because I do it from home a lot of the time as well. And so when I went to this motel, I went to sleep, and I was just completely sick of this thing, and suddenly I realised, oh crap, it's back, and I'm on a work trip, and my mate's in another room anyway, not that he'd be able to help me. And so I was asleep in bed, paralysed. I couldn't see it, because sometimes I wouldn't see it, but I'd just feel it in the room, and I could feel this demonic hatred, dark feeling in the room all over again. I'm like, oh, great, freaking in a work trip, no one can help me here. And I was so over all of this, I went, right, I just wanted to get up and face this thing once and for all, because I was over it. So I thought, well, if I can't get up in a physical form, maybe I could leave my body astro traveling and face this thing once and for all, have it out with it. And so I did. It took a lot for me to get up, because I still felt like I was pinned to the bed, just like they talk about back in the day. They used to talk about this phenomenon. You probably seen pictures people have drawn where there's an old hag, or there's funny looking creepy demon gargoyle thing sitting on someone's chest. There's a lot of things on the internet like that. And so yeah, it took a lot for me to get up, and I finally broke free, and I got up, and I went like, woof. I'm standing in the motel room. I'm like, it worked, great. And I've looked down, my body's laying on my single bed still. So by this stage, it still wasn't in the room, but I've looked at the doorway into the other part of the motel. And okay, this is going to sound completely nuts, crazy, bonkers. I understand a lot of people won't get this, but it's the truth. I walked up to this doorway, and it was like that doorway was the doorway to another dimension, like a portal or something. This thing was using it for. And I'm like, should I really step out there? Like, into the big unknown. And so I went, right, I'm gonna do it. So I've stepped through the doorway, and first step in, I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, it was like a big old stone castle, but the thing is, it sounds crazy as well. If everything was upside down. So when I was walking in, I was actually walking on the ceiling. I saw like these old candlelight things or whatever they were on the, like, to me it was the floor, and I looked up to see the floor up there with this big old stone table with chairs, like huge, up on the ceiling, roof, the floor, whatever you want to call it. But then behind that was this window, and I could see the moonlight out there as well. All backwards, upside down, everything crazy. And I still couldn't see it, but I could feel it. I could sense this thing that was in the next room or down that way somewhere. So I started walking slowly, trying to look around at everything, just terrified, but I just wanted to end this. I got about 7 or 8 footsteps in, and then I really started to think, hang on, maybe this is a really bad idea. Is this a trap? Like, this thing might lock me up in a freaking cage in the dark there somewhere, and for the rest of my life, like, I know it's all crazy, weird things, cuckoo things I'm talking about, but I had this fear going, I might get trapped here, and I might be a vegetable for the rest of my life, my body back there. I got a family, I got a wife and kids and things like that, and I may not ever freaking get out of this place if I freaking go here. So I didn't take my eyes off where I was walking forwards towards this next room, but I just started walking backwards, trying to kind of step back to where I knew the door was back into the motel room. And but without really taking my eyes off too much what was in front of me. And I got to the door and kind of stepped in, still didn't take my eyes off the door because I was terrified something's just going to lunge out at me. And I got back to the bed, and I'm looking at myself laying in bed, and I was trying to get back into my body. It just wasn't working like it normally would. Like, it was like I was almost stuck. And I was trying, and I'm just standing up against the back window of the motel beside the bed where I was laying, just trying to get back in. And then suddenly a big woof, and like a jolt, bang, I was back in my body. And it never came back. It's like, to me, all I can think of is, it was like, oh, bloody hell, this guy can defend himself. He's got up to face me. Maybe we'll leave him alone. No, stay away from him. I don't know. I know it all sounds mental, but all I know is it never came back after that. And I experienced this thing for 4 or 5 years straight, and I just feel sad for the people that have got this for the rest of their life, and especially for the people, if it's true, that have committed suicide because they don't know what to do about this thing. I know, yeah, this sounds crazy, but that's it. Take it as it is. Believe me, don't believe me. Your choice. At the end of the day, I'm doing these videos because it's a bit of a diary for me, because I'm no writer. I don't like writing or anything like that. So I'm just looking at these, I'm putting it out there, so I've always got them on the videos. So I've got something to look back to, because so much happens around me that they all just kind of blend into one, and I forget little bits and pieces. So everyone keeps on telling me, you got to write them all down. So this is my writing, basically. But anyway, that's just another story to add to the list. Bonkers or not bonkers, you can decide. But yeah, if you did like my story, please don't forget to like my video, and subscribe if you'd like to hear any more videos, stories like this. And just letting you know, I really do appreciate every like and subscriber out there. It really does mean so much to me. It's yeah, thank yous all so much. Anyway, hope everyone has a great night, and I'll catch up next time. Bye.